Hi everyone, thanks for joining on this Tuesday morning. I'm Greg Laporte. I work for Coveo as a product manager, and I'm with Jeff Gross, MVP and practice lead at Aperio. Today we're going to talk to you about how to create a Lightning community integrated in sources like Slack and GitHub with Coveo Unified Search and machine learning. So basically, today we've got to give you a quick intro about what Coveo is, what we do. We're going to show you how to set up Salesforce indexing in Coveo. We're also going to show you how to build an Heroku Slack bot that will push this content to Coveo. Also talk about a GitHub push API that we did also. We'll build a search UI in a community. I'll show you a bit of usage analytics and then how you can get Coveo and start working.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Jeff Gross, and welcome to Dreamforce 16. It's an awesome day to kick off Tuesday here. We really want to welcome you guys to the developer lounge, the developer zone here. And this morning, I'm really excited to be a part of this session and help you guys understand what's possible with Coveo. My background is I've worked with CRM and Service Cloud and contact centers for the past 20 years. Obviously, Service Cloud has not been around 20 years, but nonetheless, I work at Aperio as a practice lead, so I get involved from pre-sales all the way through to delivery and making sure that our customers are successful. And one of the keys to making our customers successful has been working with Coveo. They've helped us out in a number of customers you're going to hear about today in this session, and we want to share that with you because we think that that can actually really help you guys become successful as well. There's some great things that these guys have done, and if you don't know who Coveo is, I'm going to tell you a little bit about that now. So Coveo is a platform. It is a smart engine that sits and knows what your data is like. It indexes things smartly. It's an intelligent index engine here. You see this out here? Notice everything that you see on the left-hand side of the screen. All of those 50+ secure connectors to all of the different systems you might use, whether it be SharePoint, Jive, Lithium, websites, Inquira, obviously Salesforce, that's the big one. All of those tools out there have information that your customers and your agents need to be able to use, and by bringing that directly into Salesforce, directly into the community, directly into the agent console, you can make your customers and your agents smarter and be able to utilize all that information that's out there. This goes across all of the different pieces of Salesforce, including communities, knowledge, Service Cloud. There's an insight console that helps you get intelligent insights about the information that you have that goes even farther beyond what Salesforce's standard knowledge interface allows. So the 4 parts of what Coveo does, these are things that differentiate them from everybody else. We start out here with the secure indexing. We talked about the 50+ different connections out there. That is unique. If you guys wanted to bring that in on your own to your community or to your agent console, that's really hard to do. You can sure have all that information out there, but how do you actually make use of it? These guys create a secure index. So it observes all the access controls each of those individual systems has and makes a personalized experience for each of your agents and your customers. It's embedded so that you can have the interface all the way out there in the community, both on a public site, on a secured, authenticated site. You can have it inside of the Service Cloud console. You can have even a web page that has everything accessible in it. And it'll create these facets. You'll see a lot of these things that are part of it later on in the demonstration. But you're able to smartly find all the information that you have, put it in the right place, help you in relevance, not just simply keyword searches. The next piece is to measure this. Now this is something that's difficult to do. You got so many different ways of looking at the data that you have out there, but what are people using? What are people clicking through to? And how do you know what you should build more of and what you should retire in that information that's out there? Coveo has an intelligent engine that shows you the analytics of click by click, what are people doing, and how does that lead them to the right answer? Which leads us to the fourth piece. Coveo Reveal is a way of machine learning, understanding the click path of what your users and what your customers do in order to make it smarter. You'll see a demonstration of that later. The benefit of this is you don't have to go out there and do all of the tuning. Yes, there's definitely slides and levers and things that you can push and pull to make this work, but the thing is, it can learn for you. You don't have to make all the decisions in that process. So having all of those four things together on a platform that you can easily embed with a point and click interface, but at the same time using standard methods of integrating this into any other site that you want, you guys get the power and the control to make search much more relevant, deeper inside of your applications, and smarter. So, how does this work inside of Lightning communities? This is actually something relatively new with the Lightning communities that are out there. There are Lightning components that you can actually drag and drop in that immediately make Coveo available directly within the communities themselves. This is something that's really amazing to be able to pull that in and not have to do all that by code. I mean, I know you guys are developers. I know you guys can do all that, but why would you if it's already been done for you? And now what you can do is you can just tweak it a little bit if you want. So this is an important thing that now this actually drives up your deflection so that you can improve the number of cases that don't have to ever get submitted. And by the way, we can measure that. That's one of the hardest things for a support center to actually be able to measure is, how do I know how many cases I've actually deflected? It's really hard to measure that. This gives you the click-through path to understand exactly what people are doing so that you can measure that. You can get a definitive ROI, and a lot of customers have done that. So here's one example of this, BMC software. You guys have all heard of these guys. They're a great Salesforce customer. They're here this week. BMC I've worked with in the past year along with Coveo. And what they had is they had a number of different pieces out here. You see Salesforce, Jive, Confluence, their website, Salesforce, everything out there. Well, they wanted to bring it into a single unified search that gives these facets. And when we think of facets, that's what you see on the left-hand side there. Think of it as Amazon.com. If you go out to Amazon and you look for Bluetooth headphones, you want more than just the whole world of, let's say 1 million headphones that they sell. And maybe it's not that much, but it's close. If you think about the way that works, if you want to limit it by brand, if you want to limit it by price, by rating, all of those things, Coveo brings that in because Coveo understands the kind of data that you have and makes that available immediately out of the box. So at BMC, they found that being able to bring this all together in a single place, both on their unauthenticated site, but then also for their direct customers when they log in, it gives a much more personalized search experience. And in fact, because Coveo knows who the customer is, they make it an extremely personalized experience because now it's actually going to look for the knowledge based on the products that they have licensed from BMC. So it can look at entitlements. It can understand which products they've purchased and guide them directly to the relevant results for their products. Another one here is Logitech. You guys have seen this Bluetooth speaker up here. These guys make these things. Logitech is a customer I worked with a couple of years ago along with Coveo as well. We started out with the standard communities with Salesforce, with a site page and then some community pages for customers. Well, they recently turned on Lightning communities, early adopters of that. This was a very short project. They were able to turn on Lightning communities. They were able to integrate all of that information they had, plus a couple of years worth of data, understanding what their customers have been doing, immediately put it in place. And it was literally, as you see here, a very short amount of time being able to put that in. And that includes Salesforce, e-commerce, YouTube, all of that being pulled together as a part of the process of putting it in here and making it available to customers. In fact, you even see on both these slides, you can go out to that site and you can actually search it yourself. You can be a part of that. And it's all done internally.
So, why Coveo for developers? Basically, first of all, connectivity. You get to push or pull content. We have more than 50 plus connector to existing system. So Jeff can tell you more about how hard it is to build connectors to system and import everything in Salesforce. Sometimes you don't need that. You just want to access the content, but you don't really need to migrate everything in Salesforce. So that's a big plus. We have HTML and JavaScript UI framework. Everything is open source, so you can build on top of it. You can include that in any kind of website that you already have. Also, scalability, high performance as a service. I used to be a developer, and honestly, what's cool with Coveo is that the results comes in less than a second every time. Developing with Coveo is cool because it's fast, and then you don't have to worry about scalability. Everything is managed, it's as a service.
I didn't even mention that, but if you looked at Logitech's numbers on there, millions of queries. I mean, these things are sub-second response time. And the fact is, you'll even see from what Greg is going to demonstrate later, the way that these indexes are built, we could or we couldn't search everything within Salesforce. You guys help build out the index. You decide all of the custom objects, all the standard objects. You decide what goes into it so that your intelligent search becomes more intelligent.
Yeah. Other thing is the REST API. So all the search page are driven by a REST API that can be used to integrate in any mobile app, any kind of in-app help that you want to do. We can also use contextual information to boost. So you talked about the BMC use case, but if you want to pass the product information and use that to boost certain type of results, that's also something you can do. And this is managed all by the business administrator. So that way you don't have to do change set every time someone wants to change something. They can have access to this and be able to change it themselves.
Don't worry, you guys still have work to do. So don't think you're getting off, just because it's point and click. They still need you guys, and we'll talk about more of the things that you guys can bring high value to it, but yet turn some of those other things back to the business and say you guys can actually manage that yourself.
Yeah. And as soon as you're using our JavaScript UI, you start logging analytics information. So everything that happens with the search, the interaction, clicking on facet, clicking on results, get tracked in our usage analytics. And then you can do click-through analysis and then self-tuning after that with the machine learning algorithm. So yeah, so I'm going to jump into a quick demo of what we can do here. Let me just
It's where it gets real.
Okay, this works. Okay, so as we mentioned, we can connect to different systems. So we have more than 50 pre-built connectors. So when you want to configure a pre-built connector, you just click on Add Source here, and then you see all the list of the source that you can add. So in this example, what I'm going to show you is how you can get content from your cases. So the support agents creating cases, you want to access this information. You want to access the conversation in Slack. You also want to access the bugs that are in Jira or the developer documentation that you guys have on Confluence. So how can you have all this information into one place and then search into one single hub and get access to all this information? So basically when you want to add one of the pre-built connector, you just select one of those and it's basically 2 clicks. So for example, I'm going to show you here, I already have some Salesforce content index. So when I edit this source, what you see on the left is all the objects that are available. So I don't only see standard objects, I also have access to any kind of custom objects that are available in my org. So here I index as cases. So as soon as you select the objects, what you see on the right hand side are all the custom or standard fields that comes with this object. So here I just created a new custom field to show you guys how easy it is to index it. So I can select this field, save and start the rebuild. So this is automatically going to start the refresh cycle and get this new field indexed.
And the thing is, that's going to change all the time. I mean, you know how the business is always asking for more fields, or perhaps you're actually going to them and saying, hey guys, we got to cut back a little bit and change out what we're using. That would normally be a real pain to go out there and change the way you're searching with all your SQL queries and all that kind of stuff. Now you've got the direct access to it in here. You go in object by object, field by field, and it immediately starts rebuilding that index.
Yeah. So you've seen Salesforce. here I have other example with Confluence and Jira. So same principle, it's 2-click configuration, and then you get your content index. But then what happens if you have content that is in another system? There's this new thing coming on, or you have your homegrown app and you want to get this content into the same index and be able to search upon it. So what we did here is we did some Heroku Node.js app that pushes content to the push API. So basically you can create easily a push source. Same principle, you click on add source, create a push source. It generates a token that you can then use to push your content. So here, let me show you a quick example. So this is available on GitHub, by the way, if you want to take a look at the code. It's very straightforward. So what we did first is we used the Slack Node.js client, the RTM client, and then all we need is the token for Slack, and then on the Coveo side you need the org ID, the source ID, and the push token that you get access when you create your source. And what you see here is pretty simple. First of all, we just init this RTM client, and then we bind to events that we want to listen on. So here in the bind event method, I'm just going to show you how you can listen to message, but you could also listen to reactions or any kind of event that you can hook to in Slack. So here, every time there's a new message in the channel, it's going to call my handle new message method. And right here, what I get is I need to get the metadata that I want to push to Coveo. So first piece is I want the channel, I want the time string, and then I need to create a document ID. So this is important because this is what you're going to use to update the existing document or be able to delete a document if you want to. So you have to generate a unique document ID, and then you have to generate also a body for this. So here is an example of a body that we're generating for this push client. So a Slack message is pretty simple. You have a message, you have a team, you have the channel, the type, the name of the user, and the timestamp. So you can imagine in other use case you could have 100 metadata. That doesn't matter. It's a dictionary. You can have any kind of date, numbers, or string in there, and then you can push it to Coveo, and then you'll have access to all this metadata. And when you search on a term that matches one of this metadata, this document will come up in the result list, and then you can use it, and you can use our interface editor to create templates.
And it'll actually be faceted too. That's the other beauty of it, is that when you bring these in, yes, you're comparing it to Salesforce records, you're comparing it to knowledge, you're comparing it to other messages that are out there, but it's automatically organized. You could have a team Slack filter on the side. You could have all those facets that you can get down to exactly what kind of a message this is. And so it brings huge value to it that you wouldn't get from your standard Salesforce search.
Yeah, that's a super good point. So any of these metadata can then be used to create facets in the UI. So let me just get back here. So now we have content from Salesforce, we have content from Confluence, Jira, we have the Slack bot that I created. We also created a GitHub bot, so you can access it on GitHub. This one is written in Go, if you guys like this language. And then you can see just another example of what can be pushed to our API. So now that we have this index with all this rich content, we want to build a UI to be able to search upon it. So what I'm going to show you is basically a vanilla customer service community. So I just created a blank community here, and I included our search page. So let's say here I search for scheduler API, because the content is talking about IoT device like a Nest or something of that nature. So
what's that little icon up there in the first result?
Yeah, so thanks, Jeff. So the first, what you see on the first result is a suggested result. So that means that this result was boosted by our machine learning algorithms. So basically based on all the feedback loop of people searching for a certain term, clicking on document, being successful, not creating a case. So you can basically program positive outcome. So we say on a certain session, this user searched for this term, clicked on a document, and then add an item to the basket, or didn't create a case in the case of case deflection. So depending on what is a positive outcome for you, You can really configure your machine learning algorithm. And you can also choose your training set. So what's the update frequency, what's the data period. And then based on that, you're going to get document bubbling up, on top of the result list, like this one here.
Very cool. So what about if you want to put this into a different UI? What other options do you have? Let's say you maybe don't want to do a community.
Yeah, so in that case I use the Lightning Community, but you can also use our UI to integrate into an Heroku app or any kind of web-based app that you guys have. As I said, the search UI is all open source, so you can take a look at the code. It's JavaScript, it's calling our REST API directly, so it's not really dependent on a server-side piece, so you can put it in any kind of web container.
I like that. But you know, there's some analytics stuff that I think these guys want to see too.
Yep, so I'm going to get to that a bit later on. So
I got to be patient.
Yeah, so what you see on the left-hand sides are the facets. So all the metadata that we were pushing earlier, you can use that and the UI automatically generates those facets. In fact, the backend generates it and the UI renders it.
And then you have options too. That's the other thing. You'll show when you get to that point. But yeah, it's automatically creating the facets, but now I can actually limit that. I can say, you know what, I like that, I don't like that.
Yeah, you can customize your facets. You can also customize the tabs on top, and you can even customize the result templates. So let's get into to the community builder. So right here you have the search component. So it's a simple component that you can drag and drop into your page. And once it's in the page, it's as simple as that. You don't have anything else to do. You just have to generate the search page and get to what we call the interface editor. So it's kind of our own version of the community builder. And right there you can build your UI. So if you're not the WYSIWYG type and you prefer to write code, you can also switch to code view. So everything you modify in the UI automatically reflects into the code. So it's an HTML file that you're modifying. So that's pretty simple to configure.
Greg, one other thing is, I know you're in the interface part right now, but as I think about it, when you're indexing all of these different sources out there, your access is different than my access. How are we controlling that? Because I haven't seen anything about how you manage that. So tell me a little bit about security.
Yeah, super good point. So when we index the system right here, we're not only getting the metadata, but we're also getting the security information. So in the case of Salesforce, I'm not only indexing the content, but I'm indexing the profiles, the permission sets, the community sharing sets if you guys are using that. So all the security mechanism in Salesforce are kind of respected by our own index and across all the different systems. So same thing with Confluence, same thing with Jira. So when ggrowth at aperio.com logs in, he gets content that you only see content you have access to.
And that's a huge, huge thing for especially customers out there who've got SharePoint to, you know, the nth degree, that you got a ton of SharePoint sites that people have never been able to access that data really well within Service Cloud or any other part of Salesforce and observe all those access controls. Sure, you could have maybe the header or the title of each of the documents, but now you can pull all of that content in and make it visible. And even within here, within your UI builder, you can build out what you want that result set to look like. So we all know what Google looks like when we go out and search for something on Google. Well, here you got, you know, your title, you've got a brief description, you can use icons, you can do all kinds of other things to make each of these different types of content stand out in a different way.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm going to show you a quick example here. So I could drag facets, I could drag tabs, but just in a matter of time, just let me show you how easily it is to index, to modify a template. So I can switch to the layout option here, and I see a live preview of my template. So here, let's say I want to add the author. I can basically create a section right here, and then drag a field value. And then here you see all the metadata for this specific result. So you can choose from the list and say, I want to add the author here. So when I add the author now, best demo admin is my author for this result template. So I can save, the UI is going to reload, and now the author is part of this result template. And then once you're done with this, again, you can go back to the code view, and if you want to integrate that in Heroku, you can just check in the code to Heroku. In the case of Salesforce, what we're doing is we're just writing everything to a Visual Force component. So you can use change sets or you can version control this code also. So depending on what you prefer, you can simply push it or modify it directly in the UI here.
Are we ready for analytics yet? You know, I'm interested in that.
So yeah, let's get to the analytics now. So what we said is our JavaScript UI is logging all the interactions that the user have with it. So basically when I click on a facet, when I click on a document, and then it's also logging all sorts of metadata, like what's the device, what's the origin, what's the country, and then not only what we have out of the box, but you can also complement that. So there are JavaScript events that you can listen to add some additional metadata, such as entitlement, for example, or product in some case. So if you're on a website and if you're on the Logitech website, you're looking at a specific product and you use the search, we can inject this context into the search and be able to kind of modify the relevance, but you can also report on it in the analytics.
Imagine the beauty of that though. So you're an international company like Logitech who sells these products all over the place. Now you get into exactly knowing what are the most used articles, what are the most used pieces of information from a specific country. So that all of a sudden you see a huge spike in China because of a new product that rolled out. How do I address that? How do I get a new article out there? All of that can be brought in here, and you get immediate insights from the day that you go live with Coveo.
Yeah. So for example here, what we have is, for example, the top sources. So every time you click on a document, we log the source that it comes from. So you can see, is Salesforce knowledge the most popular source? Is it my cases? Is it the YouTube content that I just rolled out? So you can really see what's being successful and then try to optimize your community based on that.
What if I want to use other analytics like, I don't know, Google Analytics, Wave, pick another tool?
Yeah, so basically there's two ways to integrate. You can integrate on the UI side. So as I said, you can listen to events and you can send duplicate information to your other analytics system. But what you can also do is export the data. So all the data that we store in our analytics can be exported and then imported in a Wave if you want to do other kind of analysis. And then you want to do mashups with your existing data warehouse. So this is
yeah, so put it into business objects or anything else like that where you can slice and dice it in multiple ways. I mean, you guys do a ton in here, and that's one of those things I would probably really enjoy digging into and drilling into all that information, because when you see all that, you didn't have to do a thing. Coveo did it all in the background.
Yeah, one of the big differentiator of these analytics is that we don't pre-aggregate the data. So we're keeping a granularity of one single event. So you can report on any kind of dimension. So here, for example, I said we're sending default dimensions such as what is the source, what is the country, but you can also add your own. So here, for example, like I have case ID. So this is something that you can send in a custom event, or custom event origin. Any kind of things that you guys are pushing, you can filter on that and zero in on a certain kind of information. So examples of that is here I built kind of a dashboard for all my employees. I want to see how they're using this community that I just created. So I see the number of visits, I see the click-through, are people clicking on results, what's the average click rank, are they clicking on the third result. So this is for all my employees. But I put this community in place because I want to help new people to ramp up faster. So I want to see my new employees. So I add this information as part of what I log into the analytics. So how long he's been with the company, and then I can filter on that and see all the same data but for the new employees and see what are the content gaps. So what people are searching for but are not finding any kind of information. So that way people who write the documentation in R&D can look at that and say, well, there seems to be a problem about this thing, I should document it.
And you guys end up looking like rock stars. Frankly, this all came as a part of Coveo, but you hand this over to the business and they'll love you.
Exactly.
Okay, I can't guarantee they'll love all of you, but they'll love most of you.
Yeah, they'll love us at least, so that's a good thing. So what I want to show you also is the visit browser. So I said we're logging with high level of granularity. So just to give you an example here, so I can see that this user came in, searched for receiver audio out, changed his query to wobbly TV, and then clicked on that document. And for each of these events, I can drill down and see exactly what was the metadata that was sent with this information. So you can really add any kind of information and do any kind of drill down analysis. And you can do filter on visits also. So I want to see all the visits where people did at least a search and a click. Or I want to see all the visits where they did a search for this specific term but didn't click on anything. So I want to understand what happens in those visits. And then I can understand the click pattern, and maybe the document wasn't relevant and I can modify this document to make it more relevant so that people would click on it now.
You know, as we're getting down to 9 minutes left here, I think, Greg, you told me about something that you guys are doing that's new that these guys may want to get in on and try out Coveo for the first time. Tell them a little about what you're doing.
Yeah. So what we're launching is an offering that's going to be AI-powered search for Salesforce community. So basically, the idea here is to keep all these analytics information, this customizable UI, these personalized search journey where you can configure everything, and then add that on top of the Salesforce index. So instead of using our own index, you can search, we use the Social API, and you get the same kind of richness of UI analytics and all of that. So the idea is to launch something that's going to be a kind of a freemium package, target at SIs and developers like you guys who want to build apps. And it's going to be GA in Q1 of 2017. And then we're doing a soft launch with SI partner this month. So if you guys want to learn more about that, you can come to our booth. We are at the Lightning Lookout here. We'll have people who can do a quick demo of what can it do and answer your questions. So feel free to come in. We're happy to answer your questions. And by the way, Audrey is going to be walking around with to gather your business cards. So if you guys want to put your business card in the draft, you can win a UA Boom. And also, the guys that comes to our booth, you have another chance of winning a UA Boom because we'll do another draw at the end of Dreamforce.
And those things are good, man. Those things are coveted. So yeah, definitely turn in your cards. But what we want to do is we want to turn it back to you guys now. Based on what you've seen, what kind of questions do you guys have to understand a little bit more about what Coveo can do? And we're not going to walk around with a mic. I want you guys to just stand up, shout out your question, and then stump Greg or myself. We dare you. Come on, yeah, go ahead.
Is it possible to scrape the source from somewhere else, like an HTML source? So we use a third party, but they don't have a very good search engine. What we currently do is we scrape the UI, the search results.
Okay.
It's inconsistent, to say the least.
So Greg, I'm going to turn this one over to you, but yeah, being able to scrape another source for those results. So being able to bring it in from an HTML source.
Yeah, so this is something that we often do. I mean, we have two options for that. Sometimes people will generate a specific sitemap with different rendering of the page. And in some other case, when we can't do that, we use our web crawler. So it's going to crawl the source. And then you can use the web scraping to kind of extract some kind of specific information based on filters, any expat, or you can also use jQuery kind of selectors, HTML selectors.
Who else?
To get the information.
So how the information is stored and where it is stored, like all this information that Coveo is working on?
Yeah, so good question. All this is stored in our Coveo cloud environment. It's running on AWS. We have encryption both in transit and at rest. So all this information is secured. We are respecting compliance, and also it's all, so basically all our connectors are hosted on this cloud platform, and they pull the content from Salesforce into a unified index.
Next.
Hey, so I know you mentioned that the machine learning algorithm can suggest certain results. Is there any way you could sort of hard code certain things for search values to automatically appear at the top? maybe things that you want to push as opposed to things that you want to wait for.
The nice thing is I can actually answer that one. Greg doesn't even have to, but he will show you probably. So there's a way that you can tweak and move that. So you can say that certain results are more valuable than other results. So let's say you got closed cases that actually have a knowledge article attached to them. You could say that actually boosts it up higher than somebody asking in our community. So you can actually use that to boost it manually. But that also, helps within the AI part of it.
That's typically what our customer will do on day one. They'll do a bit of like top result, what they call top result or featured result. So they'll say for this query, which is one of my most popular query, I want this document to be on top. But then after a while, the machine learning algorithm is going to kick in and they can get rid of those because it's just going to automatically do that for them.
By the way, we didn't even mention this, but actually one of the places you guys have already used Coveo and you may not have even realized it is the Salesforce Success community. So all of that information that you see inside of there is all running on Coveo's index. So when you see the multiple facets of how you can get into developer documentation or whether you're going into a YouTube video or ideas or documentation, it's all coming from there.
Yeah, so the help.salesforce.com website is all powered by Coveo. Any other?
What else have we got? Yeah.
On the point of access management, so you were a bit short on that. Is that, so from the user experience, does that mean that, is that an OAuth acceptance they have to do, they have to click anything, or is that all seamless? How does that work?
Yeah, so basically when we index Salesforce, what I didn't show you is that you click on Salesforce, you get redirected to your Salesforce instance, you log in, you authorize Coveo, and then we start indexing. So we use the OAuth 2.0 protocol for the security.
Yeah, but what I mean is, so how do you do the personalized? So I'm on a community, I logged into a community, then that's clear, I'm in Salesforce, but then if I search on SharePoint, how does it?
Okay, so you're talking about the other way around. So when you're in Salesforce and you're querying Coveo, so basically what we do is in Salesforce, we have your identity information. So we know, for example, you're Jeff Gross. So based on that, I have access to your profile. And so I have access to multiple information about you. So I can inject that information into the query. And then basically here, I can create different kind of rules, but I can also create conditions based on this additional metadata that you send with your authentication information, if you will.
So one example of that is being able to use this for HR service desk. And if I'm going to go out there and query policies, because the system knows I'm Jeff, it knows that I work in the US, all these kinds of things, it takes those into account so that I'm only seeing the results which are for the US and for full-time employees or other things like that. So you can use all that data as filter criteria to make it more personal. One last question. We got about a minute and a half before we close out and then give somebody the UE boom.
You said something about the freemium package. So right now, if you want to try it out, something just to play with, is there something that we can try, or we have to wait until the Q1 of 2017?
I mean, you can come by our booth and we'll see what can be done. Are you an independent developer? Are you working for an SI or?
I work for a company, but yeah, we can definitely come down there and check it out with you. But yeah, I just wanted to know if there is anything that we can try it out maybe for 15 days or something, and then,
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
Definitely, we can take a look at that. You can look at people with orange shirts also here. They can definitely help you after the session.
Thank you.
All right, with that, where are our business cards? I think I need to draw.
So, where's Audrey? Oh.
Good, good, good. And it's not a hat. And I'm gonna go. I totally missed the thing in the first place here. Da 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 da. Some of you guys were trying to get a big card in there in order to win. Wow, this is a. All right, I'm gonna ask you to read that since I'm having a hard time reading it.
Alan Dolph.
Woo!
Congrats.
All right, congratulations. But even though you guys didn't win a UE Boom, you can come on down to Coveo's booth and check it out. Guys, I want to thank you so much for coming by today. Check out Coveo, come ask me questions, ask Greg questions, ask him the harder questions, by the way. But thank you again for coming and have an awesome Dreamforce.
Thank you.